Yo guys, what's going on? I'm Tim Kelly. This is the Real Sports Talk and Nation Sports Blog presents the 30 Clubs, 30 Previews MLB special. Today, we are on to one of the most popular teams in the MLB, Red Sox Nation. That would be the Boston Red Sox, a team that last year had one of the most disappointing seasons in recent memory in the first and only year of the Bobby Valentine era, which, for the record, I was never in favor of. They went 69 and 93. Everything absolutely exploded with this team. They ended up trading Adrian Gonzalez, Josh Beckett, and Carl Crawford away, and it just signaled that with Terry Francona gone prior to the season, with Theo Epstein gone, that the era of the Manny Ramirez, the Jonathan Papelbon, the David Ortiz, he's still there, but that era is over, and now they are moved on to a new era of Red Sox baseball. And to be quite honest with you, this is one of the hardest teams in the MLB that I'm looking at that I have to preview. I think the A's are a very difficult team. I think the Orioles are. I think the Phillies are. And I think the Red Sox are, because in the case of the Phillies and the Red Sox, they're both teams that have a lot of veteran talent that did not produce at great levels last year. They had some injuries. And in the Red Sox case, they had just a horrible clubhouse atmosphere, which they've really had brewing for a few years now. But it got worse last year. Putting Bobby Valentine into that clubhouse just made everything even worse. So that obviously did not work out. They bring in John Farrell as the new manager, who was formerly a bench coach under Terry Francona. He was with the Blue Jays for the last few years. They actually acquired him via trade. Now, a couple guys that they went out and made moves for in the offseason were Shane Victorino signing into a 3-year, $37 million deal, which I think was really overpaying. I think that he might be a valuable piece of this team, but to be honest with you, they were a 69-win team last year, and they are in a very good division, so I'm not sure what they're trying to accomplish, because they move away bad contracts like Adrian Gonzalez and Carl Crawford and Josh Beckett, and then they bring in another one that doesn't look like a very smart contract, because I can guarantee you no one else was giving him that contract. They also bring in Johnny Gomes, which is a move I like. I'm not sure if I like the fact that he's going to be starting probably 4 or 5 days a week, but I like it because he's a hard-nosed type of player, and I think that that's what they need in this clubhouse now. They need these type of fighters, winners back, and Johnny Gomes is certainly a winner. They bring in Mike Napoli. They did have some issues. It was originally supposed to be a 3-year deal. They were bringing him in. It ends up being a 1-year deal. And then the final move that they have is bringing in David Ross to be the backup catcher. They also do acquire Joel Hanrahan to be the closer, and John Lackey, who has really struggled in his career with the Boston Red Sox since coming over to the Angels. He missed last year due to Tommy John surgery. He's there, and they signed Ryan Dempster as well. That's an under-the-radar move that we'll get to in a little bit. We will begin by previewing position by position the Boston Red Sox, and we will start at DH with David Ortiz, who last year only played 90 games, hit .318, 23 home runs, 60 RBIs. David Ortiz has really been able to just remain productive throughout the course of his career. It's been extremely impressive. We know in the past it may have been aided by some performance-enhancing drugs, but whatever, he's come back and he's been very consistent throughout the last 3 or 4 years. His problem last year was staying healthy. He shut it down in August, and I remember Bobby Valentine accusing him of just saying, you know what, this season isn't worth it, I'm just going to shut it down. He didn't do that, because it's quite apparent now that he didn't do that, because he will likely miss the start of the season because he has inflammation in both of his heels and really just cannot play baseball doing that, because you need your heels. It's a valuable part of getting into your stance and getting your batter, or helping to get your bat around, get in a good position to hit the ball. So David Ortiz not likely to begin the season, so Ryan LaVarnway will likely be your DH to begin the season. Now at catcher, Jared Saltalamacchia will be the starting catcher. Salty last year in 121 games, hit .222, 25 home runs, 59 RBIs. The average really was not where you wanted, and it never has been with him. He's a former top prospect of the Braves organization, was the big piece in the Mark Teixeira trade, and he's certainly shown signs, and he's not too old. He's 27, 28 years old, so he's not a horrific option at catcher, but he's probably not someone you're going to be trotting out there every day. So the Red Sox made a very smart move in bringing in David Ross would be their backup catcher. Ross has spent the last 4 seasons in Atlanta, and he's done a tremendous job for the Braves. He's a very good catcher behind the plate, and then also he provides some pop off the bench, having hit 9 home runs last year. He's really been one of the best backup catchers in the MLB over the last 4 or 5 seasons. So I think that was a very smart move, because if Saltalamacchia struggles, you do have an option that can play at least 2 or 3 days a week. Or if Saltalamacchia just needs a day off, whatever the case is, you have a good option in David Ross, who works well with pitchers, so I like that move. Now, over at first base, you do technically have another catching option, but it appears that he is going to be a first baseman, and that is Mike Napoli. Had some problems getting the deal done to finally join the Boston Red Sox, but now that he is on the Red Sox on a 1-year deal, I'm not exactly sure what to expect. He had 227 last year, 24 home runs, 56 RBIs. I know that he had such good success in his last season, or in 2011 with the Texas Rangers. I know that he had always shown good power with the Angels. He's never been a great average guy. Had always been a 240, 250 type of guy. And then he just exploded in 2011, hitting 320 with 30 home runs and 75 RBIs. But I have to say, I think that was a fluke, and I think that not only does his value go down now that he's not playing catcher, but it also goes down now that he's not hitting in a lineup that features Josh Hamilton, Nelson Cruz, Adrian Beltre. I think that his numbers are set to go down, and it's just a move that I don't get this. I don't get what direction the Red Sox are trying to head in. I know that this is not a fan base where Ben Cherington can afford to have a 2 or 3 year rebuilding process. I understand that, but I'm not sure that signing a guy like Mike Napoli really puts you in a position to have any greater success. He is a veteran. He's been in the thick of a pennant race. I do like that part about him, but the bottom line is that I'm just not thrilled with the addition of Mike Napoli to the Boston Red Sox. Maybe he'll prove me wrong. Mike Karp is going to be the backup. Karp coming over from the Seattle Mariners. Last year did get some time in the MLB in 59 games, hit 213 with 5 home runs. In the minor leagues, he had put up tremendous power numbers at AAA Tacoma, hitting 29 home runs in 2010, and then in 2011 hitting 21 before getting the call to the major league level. So I do like the fact that he did have that potential in the minors, came up and hit 12 home runs in 2011, but was never really able to put together that potential in Seattle, which happens with a lot of hitters as they move into Safeco Park. So I think that this is a low-risk, high-reward type of deal, bringing in Mike Karp. He will get some looks at DH before David Ortiz gets back, according to John Farrell. So I do like the addition of Mike Karp. Dustin Pedroia, the former MVP, will start at second. Pedroia in 141 games last year, hit 290, 15 home runs, 20 stolen bases. He's a hard-nosed type of player, and it sounds like to begin the year he will be hitting in the number 3 hole, at least until David Ortiz gets back. He pretty much does everything that you want out of a ball player. He can steal bases, he's a solid fielder, he's scrappy, and you like that about Dustin Pedroia. He's one of the guys that was there for that 2007 World title. He was pretty young back then, and he's one of the pieces that I do expect to be there as the Red Sox try and turn things around and build a brighter future. His backup, and also the backup over at third base, is Pedro Sirocco, who last year in 76 games hit 293 with 16 stolen bases. So I like his versatility in the infield, and I also like his base stealing ability. He's about 27 years old, so he's not necessarily young, but he's been in the MLB with both the Pirates and then the Red Sox last year. So Sirocco is a nice piece off of the bench. Now at shortstop, Stephen Drew was slated to be the starter, but it appears because of a concussion that he sustained in spring training where he got hit on the brim of his helmet, he will not begin the season with the team still trying to get back from that concussion. So Stephen Drew, before I get on to who will begin the year for this team, Stephen Drew's going to hit you about 250, can reach about 10 to 12 home runs, more likely in my mind that he hits 8 or 9, and then about 7 or 8 stolen bases. So Stephen Drew is not a superstar shortstop, but he is a nice piece coming over from Arizona. Jose Iglesias will likely begin the season as a starter. Last year, Iglesias in 25 games at the MLB level hit 118, but looking at his numbers in the minor leagues, hit 266, 12 stolen bases, so he's not going to bring a ton of pop to this lineup, but while he is in there, he brings some speed, some versatility in terms of the fact that I believe he can also play second base, and he should bring a respectable average. I think 118 it's not much to go off of because he got 25 at-bats, and most of them were off of the bench last year, so that's not a ton to go off of. Over at third base, Will Middlebrooks is one of the brightest young pieces in the MLB. The Red Sox did unceremoniously move on from Kevin Youkilis last year because him and Bobby Valentine just were not gelling, and it was time to go in a different direction. Youkilis now has ended up with the New York Yankees, so that is something to look out for this year. But one of the reasons they were able to so easily move on from Kevin Youkilis and pretty much get nothing in the way of return pieces for him was because of how well Will Middlebrooks was already playing. Last year, came up and in only 75 games, hit .288 with 15 home runs, stole 4 bases, had 54 RBIs. This is a guy that I do look at the MLB level as capable of reaching 27 to 30 home runs. He's a very bright piece, and he's one of the younger pieces on this Red Sox team, which is something that they need to add is that youth factor. He's 24 years old, or 23 years old actually. So Will Middlebrooks is a piece that I do anticipate to be in the long-term process for the Boston Red Sox, and it's very, very hard to find a third baseman who has the ability that we believe after watching Will Middlebrooks both in the minor leagues and after a short stint in the majors. It's hard to find a third baseman with that type of potential caliber player, and they have found that in Will Middlebrooks, and I do believe that he is going to be someone who's there for the long haul and is a future All-Star and really could challenge for being an All-Star this season if he plays over the course of a full season the way that he did last year, because he's going to hit close to 300. He's going to hit about 20 to 25 home runs this year, I believe, and I don't think that's his ceiling. So he has a ton of potential, and we will see what Will Middlebrooks does this season. Now, Johnny Gomes and Daniel Nava will likely split time in left field. Gomes will likely play against the lefties, and Daniel Nava can get the looks against the righties. Johnny Gomes, in 99 games, hit .262 with 18 home runs last year. That was with the Oakland Athletics. And again, he was a veteran piece that had been to the playoffs with the Cincinnati Reds in 2009, or 2010, I should say. He had been to the playoffs with them. He had been in the thick of things of or in 2008, I should say, with the Tampa Bay Rays. So he is a guy that has experience. He's a hard-nosed type of player, and he's a great clubhouse influence, and that's what the Boston Red Sox need right now. And I think that that's one of the biggest reasons they brought him in, over the fact that he does have some pop. He's a good player. There's no doubt about that. He's probably going to hit close to 20 home runs this year. I like that part about him. But there's other players like Johnny Gomes. The thing that he brings is he has that winning attitude, and he's the type of player that you do want on your team. Now, backing him up, and another guy, both Gomes and Nava could get looks at DH while David Ortiz is out, is Daniel Nava, who I've interviewed on this show in like 2010, 2011, after he'd only played a few games in the MLB. So Daniel Nava was a great guy, and as a baseball player, he really took a good step, was playing the game the right way last year, hit .243, 6 home runs, 33 RBIs. The average is something you want to see up, but he's someone who he kind of does the small things. He lays out, or he dives for a lot of balls in left field. He'll lay down a bunt. So I like that about Daniel Nava. I like the fact that, no, he's not a superstar, but he is someone that is kind of that piece that every team needs off of their bench that can go out there and he'll do whatever the manager tells him, whether that's laying down a bunt, whether that's stealing a base, whatever the case is. Daniel Nava is that type of guy, and I like that in him a lot. Now, in center field for the Boston Red Sox, Jacoby Ellsbury enters a contract year coming off of a 2012 where he really struggled to stay healthy. Prior to that, in 2011, he finished, I believe, runner-up for the MVP. He had just a very good season in 2011, hitting .321, 32 home runs, nearly 40 stolen bases. He did everything that year, over 100 RBIs, looked like potentially the best outfielder in the MLB. But as has happened throughout some of the course of his career, whether it was in 2007 or in 2010, he had some injuries creep up on him again last year, was only able to play 74 games, hit .271 with 4 home runs, 14 stolen bases, and I'm not sure Jacoby Ellsbury is someone that the Red Sox want to lock up long term. He's about to be 30 years old. He'll be 30 years old at the end of this year. And while he did have that tremendous 2011, not only did he get injured last year and does he have a history of those injuries, he also does not have a history of hitting .321. He's had some good years, where, like in 2009, he hit over 300. That's great, but that year he hit 8 home runs and 60 RBIs. I like the fact that he's stolen over 50 bases twice, including 70 in 2009. He is a great player, don't get me wrong on that, but I'm not sure he's going to be worth the value that he's going to be asking for in the offseason. I think it will be about $16 to $17 million a year. And for a guy who has injury questions, and he's going to try and get paid based off of the 2011 year where he hit 32 home runs and 105 RBIs, he's never come close to that at any point in his career. And I know that people can say that, well, he had a breakout year in 2011 and he just got injured last year. But that is the real Jacoby Ellsbury. But last year, even before getting injured, he hit 271. He had 4 home runs. It wasn't like he was on pace to even touch what he did last year. And that's just concerning. So we'll see what ends up happening. He could very well have another good year, and the Red Sox decide to keep him. They could be out of contention at the deadline and decide to trade him away. So I'm really not sure exactly what to expect out of this Red Sox team, and I'm not sure what to expect out of Jacoby Ellsbury in 2013. So he's a wait and see type of guy. Now in right field, Shane Victorino signed again. I'm a Phillies fan, so I've gotten to see Shane Victorino for a long time, pretty much his entire relevant MLB career. And I can tell you that Shane Victorino is the type of piece that fits great on a contending team, but as an individual player, he doesn't do anything that blows you away. He's a very good center fielder, but at the plate, he doesn't do anything that blows you away. He is best off when he's hitting 280, 290, and hitting 6 or 7 home runs, rather than trying to be a guy that hits 260 or 270 and hits 17 home runs. That's not when he's at his best. I think he got confused throughout the last few years, tried to do too much and be a power hitter. I think when he just tries to be a contact hitter, that's when he's at his best. Now in right field, they move him out over to right field, and this is one of the reasons why I felt like they overpaid him, because one of the biggest things that Shane Victorino and his agent took to the table this offseason was all the gold gloves that he had won in Philadelphia. So you take that there, and then you're going to move Shane Victorino away from the position that he won all those gold gloves at, and it almost defeats the purpose in a sense, and certainly devalues him in my mind. Now, right field with Pesky's pole in Fenway Park, it's certainly not an easy outfield to field, and again, no one knows what the future of Jacoby Ellsbury is, so Shane Victorino could very well end up back in center field at some point this year or into the future, but he's 33 years old, and you begin to question, is that even the right move long term? Because his skills may go down in terms of his range in center field, and Boston is certainly not a place where you can afford to have someone with declining outfield skills play. So his bat went down last year. His average has been way down, or went way down last year. Was not really all that productive in Los Angeles. Hit 245 in 53 games there. So it's just a move that, to me, I don't think it was a very smart move that the Red Sox made, and it really makes me question, what direction is Ben Cherington trying to take this team? I think he looked around, saw that the Yankees were still going to be competitive, saw that the Orioles had made the playoffs, the Rays were a good team and are going to be a competitive team again, and that the Blue Jays went out and got R.A. Dickey, Jose Reyes, Mark Burley, Josh Johnson, Melky Cabrera, the list goes on, and he felt like, we're going to be a last-place team again if I don't go spend some of the money that we just freed up. So, Mike Napoli's out there, which they signed Mike Napoli early, okay. But Shane Victorino, that move to me it does not make any sense why they brought in Shane Victorino. I said it at the time, and I'll stick to it. I know that probably is not what Red Sox fans who are listening to this want to hear. But as a Phillies fan, I've watched this guy, and I think he's declining. And it just, the move, it doesn't make any sense to me why they brought him in to play right field. Regardless of that, that's the Red Sox lineup. Now, looking over at their starting rotation, again, there are more questions. John Lester a few years ago looked like an ace in 2010, 3.25 ERA, 19 wins. That's not maybe the best pitcher in the MLB, but it's ace caliber, certainly number 2 on a very good team. And he had 4 straight years of ERAs or of an ERA from 2007 to 2011 of an ERA under 350, and then last year really struggled, but made every start of the season, did have 3 complete games, but in 33 starts had a 9-14 record with a 4.82 ERA, and I don't know what to expect out of Jon Lester. I think it was just a down year, and he'll have a bounce-back year this year. He's still only 28 years old, so he should be right in his prime or entering his prime. And he's a guy that I do look to have a bounce-back year, probably about a 3.50 ERA this year. But the Red Sox have not announced who will be the opening day starter. It's either going to be him or Clay Buchholz. My guess is it will be Lester. But I think that with that uncertainty at the top of the rotation with him, and then with Clay Buchholz, who had a 4.56 ERA last year, that's another one of the problems that I do have with this team, because you look around this division, the Rays have a very good starting rotation led by David Price, who was a Cy Young Award winner. The Yankees do have some questions, and the Orioles do have some questions, but the Toronto Blue Jays have Ricky Romero, who I know he had a down year, but he's sitting at number 5 right now. And it doesn't matter how bad of a year he has, because in front of him they have R.A. Dickey, Mark Burley, Josh Johnson, and Brendan Morrow. It's an extremely deep rotation. And the Red Sox, there's so many questions with both Buchholz, who had a 4.56 ERA last year, and the best he's ever had was mid-3s. With both of those guys at the top of this rotation, I'm not sure what to expect. And at number 3, the questions aren't really answered either. Felix Dubron went 11-10 last year with a 4.86 ERA. He's a top prospect of this team, and I do like him. In the minor leagues last year, between the AAA level, he struggled with a 4.22 ERA, but at the AA level, he was very successful. So I don't know what exactly to expect out of Felix Dubron this year, but my guess is that he is going to be a guy long-term that will be a solid pitcher for the Boston Red Sox, middle-of-the-rotation type of guy. He's already at the number 3 spot, and I think if the Red Sox are going to turn things around over the next few years, he's going to stay right in the middle of that rotation. But Felix Dubron is not someone that is a sure thing this year, and that's a theme with this rotation. The lineup, there are some question marks, but in general, it's not a bad lineup. The rotation, you're not sure what you're getting out of Lester, Buchholz, Dubron, and then you look at number 4, you have John Lackey, who was done 2 years ago, had just one of the worst MLB seasons I've ever seen, a 12-12 record with a 6.41 ERA, and then in his first year in Boston in 2010, had a 4.40 ERA. So he's been absolutely atrocious since getting a 5-year, $80 million deal to come to Boston. In his time in LA, with the Angels, he had some very good years. His best season probably coming in 2007 when he had a 19-9 record with the 3.01 ERA. But late in LA, he was starting to decline. His ERA went to 3.75 in 08, and 09 went to 3.83, and he had some injuries in 09, and then the Red Sox signed him, and since then it's all gone downhill. I don't know. I think coming back, John Lackey is not going to be a guy that you need to worry about having a 5 or 6 ERA, but even if he's having an ERA in the mid-4s, he's certainly not earning the money that he's going to make this year, and it's another bad contract. Theo Epstein is a guy who liked to build through this farm system and then occasionally give out some contracts, and the last few ones that he gave out to Adrian Gonzalez, which was after they acquired him in a trade, Carl Crawford, and John Lackey, were really 3 busts that did not work out in Boston, especially in the case of Crawford and Lackey. So Lackey, I don't know what to expect out of John Lackey this year. I'm not going to put any expectations on it, because I think the best case scenario really is that he has an ERA around 4.50, so we'll see what happens with him. Ryan Dempster's the one guy in this rotation that I do like. Dempster was having a tremendous season with the Cubs last year prior to getting traded over to the Rangers, where his season just blew up in his face and really struggled down the stretch with the Rangers, went 7-3 with a 5.09 ERA, but with the Cubs, went 5-5 with a 2.25 ERA in 100 innings. Prior to that, he did struggle in 2011 with a 4.80 ERA, but he seems to have pretty much in every other year a really good year. So Ryan Dempster's a piece that at number 5 you're very comfortable with. He's a veteran, and he has pitched in the bullpen before if things don't work out in the starting rotation for some reason, but he is someone that I'm very comfortable with at number 5. He kind of went under the radar. People forgot how many teams were trying to get him. The Atlanta Braves had acquired him, and he vetoed the trade there with his no-trade clause. The Braves had acquired him, and then he ended up, he wanted to go to the Dodgers. The Dodgers had some interest, but he ends up in Texas. So that deal ended up going through and he ended up really strong. But the point is, a lot of teams were interested in him last year because he was giving the Cubs a lot of innings. He wasn't as an expensive option as some of the other pitchers available, and he had done a very good job in his time with the Cubs. So a lot of people forgot about that coming into this year. So I think it's a smart move of the Red Sox to pick him up. Now in the Red Sox bullpen, things have really just changed. A few years ago, Daniel Bard was thought to be the long-term guy. They let Jonathan Papelbon go prior to last season, and then they brought in Andrew Bailey. Bailey in 6 games had a .450 ERA and then was out for the season, so he will likely end up as a setup man for this team this year. And a lot of people wondered why they went out and got Joel Hanrahan. They said Andrew Bailey's only made 6 appearances. It's not fair. But he's been a guy who's had injury concerns throughout the course of his career. So for me, it's not a smart thing to sit back and wait for him and think that, well, he may be healthy this year, because if he's not, then you're screwed, especially if Daniel Bard does not pitch the way that you want. But Joel Hanrahan will be the closer last year with the Pittsburgh Pirates. Hanrahan had a solid season, saving 36 of 40 games. He had a solid season the year before, saving 40 of 44. So Joel Hanrahan, while he's been in a smaller marketplace that doesn't get a ton of attention usually, he's done a very good job over the last 2 years with the Pirates. Prior to that was with the Nationals, never worked out there. But with the Pirates, did a very good job, and I like this move. I think it's kind of a sure guy at the back of this bullpen. And then there is still a ton of potential. I like Craig Breslow and Koji Yahara in this bullpen, and Andrew Bailey and Daniel Bard are good pitchers. So if Bailey can stay healthy, Bard can put it together, you add that to Koji Yahara and Craig Breslow, this has the potential to be a very good bullpen. But overall, this Red Sox team is just a confusing team to talk about, because not only do they have all these questions, and they're coming off a year where they only won 69 games, not to mention David Ortiz and Steven Drew are beginning the year injured, but then they also have just a stacked division where literally every team in this division is a playoff caliber team. The Orioles went to the playoffs last year. I don't know what to expect out of them this year, to be honest with you, but they went to the playoffs last year. The Rays have so much talent on this team. The Yankees have a ton of talent. A lot of injuries caught up with them early, so I don't know about them right now. The Toronto Blue Jays, they're going to be for real. I know that a lot of people bought into the Miami Marlins when they made all these moves last year, but the Toronto Blue Jays are adding those players onto a team that was already a very good team. So they add that on, and I think that they're probably the class of this division at this point, either them or the Rays. So the Red Sox are a team that right now, without a lot of certainty, I'm going to say they're about an 80-win team. And again, it's probably not a move that a lot of Red Sox fans are going to like, but ultimately, that is what I believe with this team. I think that that's a safe pick. Could they win more? Could they win less? They certainly could. Give me your thoughts in the comments below. That is your Boston Red Sox 2013 season preview. I'm Tim Kelly. This is The Real Sports Talk. 30 clubs, 30 previews, MLB special. Till next time, I'll see you guys later.